Hey guys, Henning and Morten from FlippedNormals here. In this video, we are going to be talking about a fairly big topic which has been requested a lot, and is how do you have success in this industry without going to school? Essentially, if you are self-taught, how can you do it? So let's just define some terms here. By self-taught, we mean you simply not attending schools. You can still attend courses and like mentorships, all that. We just not mean you're not paying like 70 grand to attend a school. Yeah. And by success here, we're not talking about some kind of spiritual journey. We're talking specifically, how do you get a job? Like whatever that might mean for you.
It's probably not about being fulfilled in life. Maybe the job will do that for you, hopefully.
It is, how can you do well in this field?
Yeah.
So we are going to be talking about essentially two main things in this video here. The first one is going to be your skills, and the second one is going to be exposure and soft skills. There are so many topics we have to cover here, but those are the two main umbrellas. So before we get into that, the first one is this field here is for people who really love it. If you're doing this and you feel like you're really fighting it and it doesn't really come natural, that's going to be really hard. We're not saying that if you've done this for like 2 weeks and you're not like, you're not a master, like that you should just quit. But like in order to be able to do this, particularly as a self-taught artist, you need pretty high levels of dedication, and you really need to just really love the work, because it's hard. This is going into this field, whether you're going in as a self-taught artist or if you're going in through a school, it's really hard work. It's a tricky field to get into. You have a lot of competitors, and it's a really fun field. Yeah. So a lot of people want to do it.
There's definitely, I mean, there's so many fun projects that you can get the opportunity to work on, but it does require dedication. Yeah. Even after you've started sort of working, there's still many hours that you just have to pour into it in terms to learn new software, learn new skills. And the dedication part, I think, is one of the most important ones, especially in the beginning. I think we talked about it before in a previous video. It's not that you can't have a life. It's just this is mostly your life.
Yeah, at least when you're learning it.
Yeah, when you're learning.
Once you're in the field, you can definitely have work-life balance. But it is hard in the beginning. That's just the way it is. So, but for me though, when I got started, it didn't really feel like work, because it was something I was enjoying. Like if you go to the carnival and you're like, I was here for 8 hours, and you ate tons of popcorn, like you're not like, oh man, that was hard work. You're just really enjoying it.
There's a lot of exploration. Yeah. You know, when you're first starting out, I think a lot of people starting out in the field, maybe they've started drawing and then they see some 3D stuff. Like, I want to do that. Maybe they try animation first, or maybe they start getting into modeling, and quickly you start to think about, okay, what if I want to do this thing? Okay, now I have to Google that and see, okay, how do you do that thing? And then there's the next thing, and so there are
the rabbit hole is deep.
Yeah, there's a lot of new things to constantly learn in order to do whatever project you're working on or improve your skills. Yeah.
So one thing I also really want to be clear on here is this is a question we got a lot: is does your age matter? Is there a lot of age discrimination in this field? And as far as I know, age doesn't matter one bit. Like if you are 16 or if you're 45 watching this, like I really haven't seen anyone be discriminated towards that. Like I worked with people who are like 18 years old in like professionally in the big movie studios, and I work with people who are in their 50s. Yeah, like then some of them are doing the same job even. Like it really doesn't matter a whole lot.
It's about your skills. Yeah. Are you hireable?
Yeah.
I mean, your age shouldn't. It doesn't really play a factor. Maybe there are some people out there who've had experiences with it, but personally, for both Henning and I, we've never really seen it or heard of it. So, just want to clarify that. Yeah.
So the first one we are going to talk about is your skills. There are a bunch of things here we gotta cover. Like how do you get good? Like how do you stay on top of the game? All these kind of things here. But we just want to start off by saying that when it comes to getting a job in this field here, the most important bit is not your education, is not your family history or your grades from school or anything else. It is your hard skills here. And by hard skills, we mean like, can you get the job done? It is, if you want to be a 3D modeler, is can you do 3D modeling? Like that is essentially it. Yeah. Of course, like we're talking about later on as well, soft skills are definitely important, but if you don't have hard skills, you don't have anything. This is not a field you get into purely through nepotism. If your uncle is working at a big studio, like you're not just going to get a job through your uncle because of family relations. You gotta be good first.
I guess, I mean, you might get the job in the beginning, but then after a week or so, people will probably fire you.
Yeah, you're not gonna have a career in this field.
No, for sure. It's you just because you need to be able to deliver, and you need to be able to deliver on time. You need to be able to deliver quality work.
Yeah, you need to be reliable.
You can't fake that.
No, that's very hard to do. So that is, we really can't stress that enough. Get good. Yeah, get good. And then next step is, how do you do that? that is a pretty tricky thing to do. And that's also an incredibly big question, is like, what does getting good mean and in what field? And, like, it's a tricky one. So we're just going to go through a few things here, which is you need to watch as many tutorials as you can in the beginning. Like, just in the beginning, you don't really have a foundation in anything. Like, we assume here you're starting off fairly fresh. Like, you don't necessarily know what you want to be, a modeler or a generalist or effects.
You probably don't even know the terms.
Yeah, exactly. So just cast a wide net and just get exposure to a lot of different fields. Like, watch Houdini tutorials and watch some Max tutorials. Just get a good feel for what this industry is about.
Do a lot of Google searches. How to VFX. How to games. How to animation. Just do a lot of research. There's probably articles out there written about it.
For sure.
We did a video about like life as a modeler, and
we talked about some tools as well, like
exactly.
Bit clickbaity called "What's the best 3D software?"
So there are definitely a lot of resources out there to help you, to guide you through what's the path you want to pursue. Yeah. So Google.
Yeah, definitely do that. And once you get into that, let's say you're like, all right, so I definitely know I don't want to be a pure effects artist. Like, you're like, well, let's just look at my tutorials. Learn as much as you can about the tools. Just properly get deep into the tutorials. One of the reasons is also like, you don't necessarily have to follow them blindly, but it's like, let's say you want to do some hair stuff in the future, some hair and fur. Maybe you don't necessarily know how to do it, but you know where the tutorial is. You're so far ahead of where you would be if you didn't do this.
Yeah.
And just finish projects. Start a lot of projects and just take them through to completion. This is one of the pieces of advice I was getting by one of the guys I worked with when I was starting out, when I was like 17. Just try out a lot of different things and do projects. Don't just do blind tests. Like if you want to learn lighting, don't just do like an HDRI and like try to light like a little object here, but like properly take it through. Take project through where you blocking out the models, you model, you UV map them, texture, you light them, you do some comp on them at the end. Just take them through. I really can't stress how important that is.
I think finishing projects or doing projects is one of the things that also can help people stay motivated.
Yes.
Because if you just do tutorials and you go, okay, how to 3D model, how to light, how to paint, it's like, okay, sure, you learn a skill to do a certain thing, but you don't learn how to apply that skill.
No.
Doing a project, there's so many benefits to it. There's the troubleshooting, there's the creative part of figuring out what is the project going to be, what's it going to feel like, what's it going to look like. So a project is a way for you to sort of accumulate or use all the accumulated knowledge you've gained over the past, let's say, 3 months, and you've done all this. Now you want to do a project about it.
Yeah.
And I think that helps you stay motivated, because it's not just a blind learn. It's also about applying the skills. So it's kind of like a small production environment in that sense.
And you're just connecting the dots, because if you only do exercises, that is like only doing push-ups. If you want to become like a fighter or a football player or whatever it is, you got to apply the skill.
Sometimes you need to go into the ring and you need to fight.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely do exercises as well. Like do studies and all these kind of things as well. Like if you want to learn V-Ray render settings, which is a very specific thing, you got to study those specific things as well.
Yeah.
But generally do projects from start to finish. And that also just kind of naturally just means that you become a generalist.
Yeah.
I would recommend starting off with not specializing. If you specialize too early, like you can do one thing. And that might be dangerous if you want to get a job. So if you're starting off in a smaller studio, which has like 10, 15 people, and you are you have a specialty in ocean simulation in Houdini. Now that is an awesome specialty to have, and you're super valuable if you need ocean sim.
Yeah.
If you're a small studio, most likely, you might have 3-4 projects at the same time, and you just kind of need to take them through everything. You don't have to be a master of everything at this point. These projects would probably mostly they're not like they require less skill. It's just that you just have to spread your skills a bit broader over a lot of different things. You need to be able to, you don't have to be the best modeler in the world, but you have to be able to model. You have to be able to do some basic shading and texturing. Then you need to be able to light it. It again doesn't have to be the best in the world. It just means you just got to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I think it also means that you get exposed to a lot of different fields. Like, let's say you decided from day one that you only wanted to do, I don't know, animation. If you only do that, you never get to try the
That's
other
true.
things.
That's a really good point.
Maybe you find out maybe animation wasn't really for me. Maybe you didn't have a good sort of natural understanding of how things move and how they're supposed, like timing and all that stuff. Maybe you found out, man, I just really love particles.
Yeah.
And maybe it was a shame. Maybe you never discovered that was what you really liked to do. So I would encourage everyone to try different things. Just at least try it out.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you're playing like Skyrim or another RPG, like you have a certain skill points. Don't put everything into one thing in the beginning. Like if you first time you play Skyrim, don't take everything into archery like that.
I only sneak.
Yeah,
that's it. 100 in sneak.
And then you get a dragon and you just get decimated. So, like slight tangent here, but yeah, really just, and that's why you should become a generalist. Really just get a base for everything, because otherwise you might end up in a place where you're very good at something you don't enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So once you're doing this as well, like I think it's really important to find a mentor, find somebody who you can trust to give you proper feedback. This doesn't have to be like some kind of super formal arrangement where you have a contract in writing or something. It just means find some people who you can trust and who you know can give you advice here. They don't have to be like the most senior artist from Pixar or something. Just somebody who you can learn with them as well. Just somebody who, if you show them your work, you're gonna get legit good feedback on it. They're not gonna suck up to you and be like, "Oh, it's super good." They might encourage you, and that's also super useful. But you want like a rock. You want like a stable place.
The rock.
You want also the rock.
Like, okay, so here I would suggest that you stay away from your family.
Yeah.
Not as a general thing, but when it comes to feedback, because your family is gonna be super biased.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, maybe you have a parent who's doing the same thing as you want to do, and maybe they're really, they're good at feedback.
Yeah.
Most likely not.
Yeah.
So people who are close to you, your friends, your family, they might be inclined to go, "Oh, yeah, that's very nice.
Putting it on the fridge now, Mike."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you tried to make a lion and you made a TV, and they're like, "Yeah, that looks like a lion."
Yeah.
So, find someone that you can trust, like a professional. Like, reach out to someone on ArtStation, someone who, okay, I trust their opinion, I like what they do. Maybe they're not interested in mentoring you, but reach out to a bunch of people and see if someone is willing to give you advice or feedback now and again. Don't pester them all the time. But,
No.
Once in a while.
I really don't do that. I've had people who've been messaging me like all the time. Like I've been more than happy to help people out, but they message me like once a day, twice a day, and you're just like, "Look, dude, don't have time for this."
Yeah. It also, I think it also, sometimes it gets to a point where I've gotten messages from someone who would ask for one piece of advice. We're like, "How do I do this thing?" Okay, so I write them how to do this thing, and then I think maybe they see that as an invitation to, okay, now we're going. So then I just get a list of 10 things, like how to solve this, how to do this. Like, okay, whoa. I mean, I'd love to help. Get back to me with like a condensed version of question where like, what is exactly that you want to know? Yeah. And I'll try to help you.
And have you tried Googling this first?
And have you tried Googling it? It's Google.
So when it comes to like mentors, well, like how do you find them? Like how do you find somebody who's actually can help you and who is reliable and unbiased and all that? And honestly, that is hard.
Trial and error?
Trial and error. Like the way you're not going to go to mentorship.com and get a good CG mentor. The way I've been doing this is I've been active on social media. I've been active on forums. And then you just start talking to people. Like there are like tons of Slack groups and Discord groups and like all these kind of things here where you just naturally kind of find your crew. It's kind of how you find your friends as well. Like you're not just being like, "You want to be a friend? Yeah, cool." You just in an organic way, you just find people around you. But this does require that something of you, which is that you are active. You do go out and chase this kind of stuff here.
Yeah, I saw that was on Twitter not too long ago. Someone was talking about there's actually, I think it was for games specifically, there was a Discord group specifically for women in games seeking feedback.
That's awesome.
It's really cool. I can't remember the name, but you can probably Google it.
these kind of things are super valuable because first off, you get a sense of community. And when you are self-taught, like both Morten and I, we started off being self-taught. We went to school after a while as well, but our foundation was just completely self-taught. And honestly, it can be a bit lonely.
I mean, I will say there is definitely a difference if you attend a good course or a good school versus being self-taught. I remember the people that I went to class with, you know, one of the first things I ever modeled was like a Scotch glass. And I didn't, because the tutorial was just bad. Like, it didn't explain to me the concepts of putting edges close together and like what it would mean when you smoothed it and stuff. So you see people in class being as good at modeling after 2 weeks as you were after 3 months because of good teaching or because of good mentorship. So, I mean, you know, and I guess that's what this is about. Like, you can actually attend school. So, don't be discouraged.
If you find good training as well, they can also do the opposite, because there are also the terrible schools, where you have somebody who's, I've seen that as well, people who are self-taught, who know way more than people who go to school, because most schools aren't very good. No. We discussed this in our other school video, should you go to school? But yeah, like we were just saying, like just join communities, like, because I was a bit lonely when I was starting out. You know, you have yourself and you're the best person you know because you're the only person you know who's doing this. You don't really have a lot of meetups and all that. But we get into that a bit later as well. Now we're talking about skills. Let's talk about your feelings a bit later. So one of the things as well is really useful, again, to figure out what is the actual competitive standard. Like, a lot of times, if you do see people local to you, like you attend maybe some local classes or something like that, or you find the local forums, you might be a bit biased here because they might not have a global skill set. If you want to work in a global industry, like you want to work in games or film, you shouldn't just look at the local talent. You need to look at ArtStation. Again, we keep saying this, like in our videos, go look at ArtStation, look at what the skill level actually is required. Like, if you want to be as a game artist, find game artists and just figure out what they're doing.
What do game artists do to game?
Yeah.
Just make the game.
Yeah. Specifically find junior artists. It's also, of course, it's awesome to find senior artists, but it's all hard to compete with somebody who's been doing this for 15 years. Yeah. So figure out what is the entry level in this field.
I really Polycount is one of those, I think, few communities that is still alive. Yeah. Like, we've talked about this before, and it's like finding a forum for people is super tricky. Yeah. My advice would be, like, use Facebook sparingly. Yeah. I think there are some groups there where people are willing to give you advice, but from what I see, most of the time it's either, my God, you suck, or this is the best thing in the world. Yeah. There's no actual constructive feedback being given. Whereas something like Polycount, you could definitely seek that out.
Yeah, and if there is constructive feedback, it's drowned by 10. This is super good. and turns out when you're starting out, yes, sure, you need encouragement, but you also just need, again, it's the whole, like, not necessarily harsh truth, but just truth. Yeah. You don't need to be beaten to a pulp and rebuilt. You just need honest feedback, which can totally be given in a kind manner. So definitely do that. So we also want to talk here about, like, this is a bit tricky, but see if you can get commercial work. This doesn't just mean freelance, but if you're young, you're like 16, 17, and you want to get into this field, see if you can do stuff for local studios. Yeah. Where you just need to get exposure to the tools and what it's like to actually work. I don't like to say this, but if you work as a free intern at this point, that is more valuable than not. At this point, your focus here is not about money or a lot of self-worth. It's learning. Yeah. It's really about learning at this point here. It is get into a studio if you can and just get into the field. You'll get social contact here. You'll get friends in the field. If they have more work for you, you might get freelance work. I mean, we've both done that, right? We work for studios and we got freelance work for them afterwards. Yeah. Just because they knew that you were then reliable, and it's the best way to learn. The best way to learn is not to sit with a tutorial by yourself. It is one way to learn. That definitely is a way to learn for sure, and that's also a good way to learn the basics. But if you properly want to learn, it is some guy tells you, "Hey, can you model this thing?" And you're like, "Oh no. That's outside my comfort zone." And they're like, yeah, well, it doesn't really matter. You got to model this thing.
I had, when I was 15, I did as part of like these school internships. Like everyone in our class had to find a company, contact them, and say, "Hey, I want to be an intern for a week. I am in school." And I was actually, my dad was the one who really got me into that, because he knew I was into 3D, and I just looked at some like lol stuff, like, oh yeah, I could just waste my life there for a week. He was like, no, you gotta do this properly. So he forced me to go talk to an ad agency, which was just right down the street from where I lived. I showed up and I was like, "Hey, can I talk to the boss?" And they were like, "Okay." And I just told them, I'm doing the school internship. I'm 15. I can do 3D. Do you need anyone who can do 3D? They're like, "What is 3D?" Yeah, I can do these things. Okay, yeah. So I did that for a week, and I started working freelance for them afterwards.
Super useful.
Yeah.
And even, let's say you do know at an early age that, I want to work in games. Even working in an ad agency where you do like arc visualization and all that, like that kind of stuff, it's still relevant.
It's still experience.
It's still experience. And what you learn a lot is the soft skills. It's like you learn how to deal with feedback, you learn how to deal with working hours, how you learn to have a salary, you learn all these kind of things. So it's get into a job as soon as you can. And as soon as you can doesn't mean right away. It means as soon as you can.
Yeah,
it means as soon as it's right for you.
You have to have some skills, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. And what is, it is. That is also the first job, which is often the hardest one. Yeah. But if you get something which is local studio, they do something kind of relevant, that is still experience. That
matters. like in my case, it doesn't even have to be a studio that is necessarily involved in 3D. No. Like the ad agency that I worked for, they had never even thought about 3D. I just presented the idea to them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that sounds kind of cool, I guess." So be bold. Yeah. Try to reach out to people.
For sure. And then next we want to talk about that. The tools, they do matter. Like if you want to do something like, let's say specifically clothing, and you try to sculpt everything here, that might be fine, but some guy is going to use Marvel as a designer, and it's going to be way, way better than you.
And faster.
Like foundations are important, and we'll get to that in a bit as well, but keep up to date on the latest tools here. Like, let's say you want to do texturing, and you've been doing this for 20 years, and you're doing this in Photoshop 7 or whatnot. Like, sure, you know everything about Photoshop 7. It's an old tool. But then you have some rookie who's sitting with Substance Painter and just drag some smart materials on it, and it looks fine. Yeah, sure, there is a merit to knowing the old way, but if you don't stay up to date on the tools here, you become redundant very quickly. Yeah. So if you're staying up to date on this, you have a competitive advantage for this. So I would definitely say learn the most recent tools in whatever field that is you're going into. Like if you are going into into games or film, Substance Painter and Designer are super useful. Yeah. ZBrush, Marvel's Designer, really useful tool. So definitely do that. But also, don't spread yourself too thin. Like we said in the beginning, like get experience with a lot of different tools here and there. But once you figure out generally what you want to do, like don't learn 10 3D software at the same time. Like it's probably good to have a basis in something like Max or Maya in the beginning, because they're used a whole lot. If you are for film, it's Maya. Just learn that one tool really well.
Like, you know what's going to happen now?
Oh, we're going to get flame wars, aren't we?
The Blender guys are going to get after not again.
We're definitely getting Blender comments here.
I promise, we really like Blender, okay? Yeah,
it's just not used a lot in commercial work.
Now we're definitely
now they're getting angry here. So keep up to date on tools.
Yeah.
Few but good tools, and learn how to use them well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I will say there is merit to Blender, especially here. Like when you're starting out with doing 3D, Blender would be an amazing software because
it's free.
It's free. There you go. That's literally it. It's free and it's a really excellent tool.
Yeah, absolutely. So we also
I think we saved it there.
Yeah. We like Blender, guys. And then also we got to talk about that. You got to figure out the way you learn the best. There are, of course, a bunch of ways to learn here, but for some people, sitting down and just watching tutorials all day long really just isn't the best way to do it.
No.
Some people can. Like, I can sit down and watch tutorials for long periods of time, but some people, they need to maybe sit outside with a laptop and just have some fresh air, or you need to have somebody actually teach you something. Maybe you need more mentorships, or or maybe some people, they just don't want to watch tutorials. They just want to just go crazy and just do brute force software. They just want to read the manual.
They go through every menu
and they just do that. So figure out what way is right for you. Like, we can't say what way is right for you, because that is so individual. There are as many ways as there are people. The way I like to do it is personally watch some tutorials to get up to scratch on the tool. Like, let's say you're learning Maya, watch an introduction to Maya, and then watch maybe some specific stuff in it where you learn how to model a car, or like some project stuff here. You follow that along. And then once you know the basics, then you just do it. You just do projects yourself. Don't get too bogged down by, I need to watch every single tutorial to learn every single feature. Do projects. For me, that is really the best way to learn.
Like, when I started out, I used a website called Tutorialized.
And I remember that one.
Maybe it's still alive. And what I would do is, because I was using Max in the beginning. And the way I found Max was through an interview in a magazine through a guy. And then I just went to Tutorialized, just search for 3ds Max tutorials. And then I just went, what is the most popular tutorial? Because I didn't know anything about 3D. Yeah. So I just started from the top, and then I went down until I figured, this is kind of cool. Yeah. I don't like these things. So I guess it's hard in the beginning when you don't know what to filter things by.
It really is. And then troubleshooting, guys. This is important. Like we hinted at earlier. Like, learn to Google. Like, I can't stress how important this is. Like, yesterday I had an issue with rendering stuff, and I just couldn't figure out. And I Googled the issue. I got a bit of code. Paste that into a script editor, run it, and the issue was solved. There wasn't like a whole Twitter storm or anything, or I didn't call anyone. It was just Google the issue. Like, we know this sounds basics here, but it's so many times where I've been teaching and some student has an issue, and they're like, I keep getting this error message. How do I fix it? And I copy paste the error message into Google. I get the fix, and they were like, how did you do it? Did you not see what just happened here? There isn't some magic. Most of tech support is you Google the issue, and then you just do what they say.
It's interesting. We just had a talk about this before the video, actually, and so many times with students, I've run into this exact issue where they present an issue for me, and I go like, "Have you Googled it?" No, I didn't Google it. But why didn't you Google it? I don't know. I just didn't think about it. Yeah. So and then once in a while, like once in a blue moon, where you run into that one person that did Google it, they'll give you a look. It's like, of course I Googled it. But it's like, don't. It's very common for people to not Google things, apparently. Yeah. So Google the thing.
Yeah, but and learn how to Google. Learning how to Google isn't just issue with Max. It's like, be specific. The more specific you are, like, copy your error messages and whatnot, and just be specific here. And whenever it comes to troubleshooting, the way I like to do it is, first you try to figure it out yourself. Like, don't Google it necessarily right away, because also there is some merit to learning how to troubleshoot something properly. And then Google it, and then ask people about it. Post, which means, you call your friend, or you ask the audience, all these kind of things here. You consult people, because if your first line of defense is always, Morten, something is broken, then
you'll never learn.
It's learned helplessness. Yeah. It's the whole you don't. It's not about fixing this issue here. It's about fixing the next 20 issues, or it's about getting a framework so that you can fix issues for the next 20 years. Fixing this specific V-Ray issue with Max 7, like you had some years ago. Who cares? It's about you're always going to be a beginner in software now, because there is always so many new tools. You need a foundation in learning and troubleshooting, because otherwise you're never going to be able to properly progress here.
Software is always going to be flawed. Yeah. There's always going to be things that you don't know how to figure out. Yeah. So really learn troubleshooting, and that is hard. The way you learn troubleshooting is by having a lot of problems and solving the problems. I mean, I think it's a skill as well. Like, really you get better at it, and as time progresses and you start to specialize more and more into a software, you start to run into things where you're like, oh, okay, this error seems similar to what I had here. Maybe this is the fix. Yeah. So,
for sure. So learn to Google. And there are also like a lot of people. So I spoke to a lot of people now, but before this video here, like people I'm working with, like how would you go about this if you were self-taught? And some people are like, I couldn't do self-taught. I don't need a school for this, because they're extremely talented people. They just need somebody to tell them what to do. So I still believe that pretty much everyone can be self-taught, but some people require more of a rigid structure than others. So if you're the kind of person whose mind is a bit all over the place and you need structure, take longer courses, find mentorship, find like 8-week courses, and really just go through those and just properly dedicate your time to those courses.
The nice thing about those, where you have the CGMA ones, and if CG Society still does them, I don't know.
They still do them.
Where you have these 8-week courses, you have deadlines where you need delivery, because whoever, the teacher of the course will correct the things. So it's kind of like being like mini school.
Yeah, but oftentimes a lot better than school.
Yeah,
because you have specialized people. Like you have like the lead rigger for Star Wars is teaching you rigging instead of just some dude who maybe worked in a commercial studio in 1998. So those courses are awesome, and we're going to talk a bit about more of those in a bit. The point here is just that there are people who just require more framework for them. Yeah. So maybe if you have a mentor as well here, if you've been lucky enough to get that, see if they can just write down like some general like milestones for you and some general like fence posts for your learning, so that you don't stray too far from them.
You can try to do that yourself as well, where you set up a little schedule for yourself.
Yeah.
You can say like, okay, this week I'm going to do this project and I have to deliver it on Friday by 4:00, and whatever I have on Friday 4:00, that's what I'm delivering.
Yeah.
Just trying to make it as easy as possible for yourself to learn and get better.
Absolutely. And then we also have what we alluded to before: learn core concepts, not just tools. Which is, sure, you need to learn the tools. Like you gotta learn, like if you're in texturing, learn Substance Painter and all these kind of things. But don't just drag and drop materials to it. Like in this case, you learn materials, learn the basics of the physics of how material works, learn light and color. We're gonna link some books in the description here about like how to actually learn. I'll some resources here on how to actually learn core principles, because those are hard to teach. So for instance, stuff you pretty much always need as a foundation for anything would be like composition. Like pretty much everything in this field relies somehow on composition. Like if let's say you're only doing texturing, you still need to compose your textures in a way which looks appealing. If you're doing, obviously compositing requires a good eye for these kind of things here. If you're doing a personal project yourself, you need to have a good composition here. Everything revolves around some core principles like composition, color theory, generally how to make appealing images.
Yeah, it could be anything. Like, how does the light fall? What kind of lights do we need to get this look? And like I said, color theory is important. Depending on what you get into, anatomy can also be important.
Absolutely.
General understanding of shape and forms. There are many core concepts that can serve you very well in many different disciplines.
Yeah.
You have shape and form. You're like, oh, well, I'm a effects artist. Yeah, but you can still use shape and form to dictate how you want your effects to feel and look.
Absolutely.
So having core concepts under your belt is definitely a huge asset.
Yeah.
And also, it's nice to learn different things that maybe go beyond the scope of exactly what it is that you were interested in.
Yeah, and they never change. Like if you look at like the Baroque paintings and all that, they're still appealing today. Like we still find stuff appealing the same way they did like 400 years ago. Anatomy hasn't changed. Like the stuff they did back then is just as valid right now. If you were to give one of the old sculptors ZBrush, they would just have to learn the tool, and then they would just go crazy on it because they still know the core concepts. Like I've seen some digital sculptors who they might not be amazing in terms of technical 3D, but they come from a figure sculpting background, and like I can't compete with those guys. Like in terms of speed and overall production, sure, but in terms of pure output, those people, they just have to learn the tool and then they're ready. So core concepts, incredibly important. Really, like I would definitely say dedicate some time to this. And this is also hard because you're always like, oh, I need to learn the tool and need to just do projects and all that. Dedicate some time to studying core concepts. A really good way of doing that is to learn photography, because there are a lot of things here you kind of get not for free, but it's like if you understand how to compose an image, then a lot of stuff follows. Like when I'm doing character designs, I'm using the rules in photography, like rule of thirds and like all these kind of things. You're using all the tools you're learning in photography.
Yeah, it can be anything. Like one, maybe it's both in the design phase, it's small details, it's the posing of a character, and then obviously the framing of the camera.
Yeah.
I think I got into photography around the age of 18 or so, bought my first camera, and just went ham on taking photos, trying to compose things. Okay, what is nice lighting? Like, what does good lighting look like? And I think it's a very valid skill to have.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you have to be a photographer.
No,
like,
not at all.
You can even just your phone. Like most people have a smartphone today with a camera. Obviously, the images won't be as nice if you have like a Canon 5D or something versus like your iPhone or whatever. Yeah. But it's still it's a very, very good tool to help you understand that concept.
I would say that the most useful tool to learn how to compose images is through a camera, because that way you can just change it. Like, you can even organize something on your desk and just take pictures. If you got to draw it up, it takes time. You got to render it properly and all that. But if you just take photos of something, and it might sound weird now if you're a beginner, but the more you get into this, the more you understand that everything is really connected. Like, if you understand shape language and how to compose an image, you will use that when it comes to like logo design or like character designs or whatever it is you're doing. Like, everything is just really connected. So the more core principles you know, the easier everything is going to be.
Like, we had that with we just redesigned the website and stuff, and there was a lot of design stuff that went into that. That's very applicable from skills that learned in the past.
Absolutely, for sure. So core skills, that's really like the course. In 5-10 years, none of the software we have will be useful. If you look at back in 2028, if you look back at FlippedNormals current tutorials, pretty much none of them are going to be applicable if it's a software specific thing.
Yeah.
What is going to be applicable is stuff like videos like improving your sculpture. Like, that goes back to core principle. If that was made 10 years ago or in 10 years, it's always going to be relevant.
The concept painting we have, like, yeah, sure, it's in Photoshop, but that could be any tool, basically. I mean, yeah, sure, there's some software-specific things in there, but it's all about core principles of painting. Yeah.
You see that all the time. Like, you have amazing digital painters, and they just pick up the new thing on the iPad, and they're just as good as painting there. Like, they do it with oils, or they do it in Photoshop. Like, once you know the medium, then it's all about core understanding of it. And so moving on from that, you need to figure out what you want to do as well. Like we said, I do recommend starting off as a generalist. But once you've been doing that for a while, then you can start to specialize. Like, that said, though, I would say that being a generalist is also sort of a speciality. It's a sort of a specialization. It's the whole thing. Like, you have 100 skill points. In Morten and I would just put a lot of into like modeling and texturing, but on concepting. But if you're a generalist, you just put kind of equal points into a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But if you want to work in a major studio, you most likely will have to specialize once you have a foundation here.
And you can be a generalist with a focus on one thing.
Yes,
like,
sure.
Let's say you are a modeling generalist. Yeah. So you're specialized in modeling, but you can do everything else in the pipeline. Yeah. So you can do texturing, shading, lighting as well, but your main focus is on one thing.
Studios generally find those people to be really valuable because they, particularly for if you want to go to like supervisory levels, because that way you just understand how everything is just connected. If you almost understand only sculpting, then you're not very valuable in terms of a supervisory role. So if you want to go up in the roles, if the better your foundation is, the more useful this is going to be. And then we got to talk about some specific training here, like online learning. Like, this is essentially how you're going to be doing it. Like I said, you need tutorials. And one of the key things I would say here is don't be afraid of spending money here. Like, obviously, if you literally have no money, you can't do that. But spending money on tutorial, that is a legit investment for it. If you spend $400 on a course, and it's an 8-week long course, and you learn so much from it, I mean, that could serve as your foundation for everything in the future.
But definitely do your research there, because you don't want to spend money needlessly on a course where you end up sort of like in the same situation as a school. Oh, you feel like the last 8 weeks was just a waste of time.
Absolutely.
It's and there are a bunch of great free resources out there, and that'll teach you a lot of things. I mean, you can probably do everything for free, but it is also worth just at least considering the option of investing into some paid courses, because there's a difference. The reason they're paid is usually because there's a lot more time and effort put into the course, and there's like a guaranteed level of quality.
Yeah, we done a lot of paid courses for FlippedNormals, and whenever we do that, like, the longest I think I've spent on a course is 3 months. That was the ZBrush to Motorwork for where we're just going through everything you need to know about taking a character from ZBrush, concept sculpting, retopology, all these kind of things. And it's way more elaborate than anything you're going to be able to find free. It's like 11 hours long. So spending like some money on a course, not trying to shill our courses here, but like spending money on courses like that, they are just going to be far more valuable for it.
I mean, essentially what you're paying for is you're paying for someone else who's distilled all the knowledge into a very short amount of time, so you don't have to spend 3 months.
Yeah.
Like now you can spend 4 weeks, well, 11 hours, let's say. Henning spent 3 months developing the course. Now you can spend 11 hours getting all of that information. Yeah. All the irrelevant stuff has been filtered out, so you won't run into all the troubleshooting things. But you still start troubleshoot.
Google.
And that's really what you're paying for there.
Yeah.
And maybe if it's a course, like a live course, then maybe you'll have access to a mentor that can guide you through and give you feedback.
I think that's actually a really good point. That it's the whole like I think I've said this for years, even when we attended school as well. I think all the information you will learn in school is available for free or for very, very cheap money online. Like for like a few $100s, you can pretty much get all the information available through most courses, regardless of how expensive a school is. If it's a US school which costs $200,000, I think you can get the information for less than like a few $100s for like $1,000 online. Yeah. But like Morten says, what you're paying for is the information is distilled. Yeah. If you just start looking for tutorials, you get so much different things here. And that's also what you pay for in a school. They filtered the knowledge so that hopefully at least what you're getting there is that you get something which is relevant, directly relevant to you. Because there is just too much information right now. So paid courses, fantastic for that. So we're obviously linking to a bunch of good resources in the description here. But we just want to talk about some of them. So the first one is Pluralsight. Pluralsight, that was what used to be called digital tutors.
Well, I guess Pluralsight bought digital tutors.
Yeah, they acquired them. Yeah. So their CG section of it is essentially digital tutors. And I find them to be useful if you are brand new in a software. I don't find them to be particularly useful if you want to learn advanced topics. Like if you want to learn sculpting, I would avoid digital tutors. Maybe they have some good tutorials here and there, but in general, I use Pluralsight or digital tutors as extended documentation.
It's an introduction to a software. Yeah, that's what I found it to be most useful for.
Yeah, that's essentially it. Yeah. They have their advantage is the quantity they have is insane. You can learn most software through that, but for advanced things like I wouldn't rely on that. Then you have Effects PhD. Effects PhD is absolutely fantastic. They run a lot of longer courses, often focus on compositing and similar topics. So check those out. Fantastic stuff. Then we have the Scott Eaton Anatomy course, which is one of the best courses if you want to learn anatomy. Both Morten and I attended those that like 8 years ago.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the best investments I ever made.
It's super hardcore.
It is very hardcore, but I think the nice thing about the Scott Eaton course, at least, okay, I can't speak to how it's structured now, but when I took it, you had your weekly feedback sessions, you had assignments that had a deadline, so that can be really good for the people that find it hard to not have a framework and just learn by themselves.
And it's distilled. If you want to learn anatomy by yourself, like there is so much stuff to learn. Like the amount of information out there is insane. Like I remember when I tried one point, I was like, all right, let's start with the hand. And I started looking into muscles for the hand and start memorizing that. And that is completely pointless. Like what you care about when it comes to anatomy is not the muscle of the hand. It's getting a overall foundation, and Scott Eaton course will allow you that. Then you have Schoolism. Schoolism is fantastic. It's mostly on, as far as I can tell, on digital painting, concept art, illustration, and is really good for that. Then obviously you have FlippedNormals, where we have a vetted interest in you visiting FlippedNormals, but we just have a bunch of courses which is focused mostly on general 3D, I guess, like character modeling, some just character creation using Marvel as a designer. We have one from Gavin Goulden on game introduction to game stuff, which is super interesting.
But I mean, also importantly, I don't know, like almost 100 videos of just free content on YouTube. So there's a bunch of stuff to go through there, which is very important, I think.
For sure. And then we have the Gnome Workshop. Gnome Workshop, I believe they're now in subscription, where you just, I think you can access their entire library, and they have a bunch of really useful stuff. They have like we said, digital tutors, plural side, if you want to learn the basics of it. And the normal workshop is where if you want to see it applied.
Yeah, that's more like, I would say, like there are some beginner courses, I would say, but it's like maybe not strictly intermediate, but like in between beginner, intermediate, and up. Yeah, you could probably find some really, really good courses there. Yeah,
that is if you want to make something sexy. If you want to make something super cool, some fantastic environment or like awesome character design or something like that.
Like I had some drawing ones. There was one in particular that I remember was Jeremy Vickery with his lighting course on lighting. He was like a dude that worked for Pixar or something at some point. Really cool color theory stuff there.
Yeah, absolutely. But they have some really good stuff. And then you have a bunch of... there are definitely a bunch of courses you can take. So like mentorship programs. One is the CG Society online workshop where they're still running this, and they were like, I believe, 8-week courses on like rigging or modeling or whatnot. Cool thing about that is you have a mentor and it's a structured course. Obviously that's a bit more expensive because it's a proper 8-week course. And then if you want to learn animation is a tricky one because you can become an okay animator, maybe, if you want to do it by yourself. But we had somebody who emailed us recently, like, okay, I want to be a character animator, and I genuinely don't know how you would do that by reading books or reading like different things. I think you actually need teachers for that.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that, some two really good schools will be Animation Mentor and iAnimate. They produce really high quality animators, but they were like also schools, like they were all proper online schools.
Yeah.
So they're not like a 2-week course here. We're going to learn some animation here. That's like, you want to be an animator and that's your thing, but you can't actually attend a school. So these resources are all really useful for different things. Some for beginners, some if you want to learn more advanced concepts. And then the second part is exposure and soft skills. So this is also super important. Like, first part here is, all right, how do you get good? Second part is, how do you tell people you're good now?
That you're good.
Because if you're only, if nobody knows that you're good, if you're just sitting in some cave in Armenia and you're the best sculptor best zebra sculptor, nobody really cares. Like you gotta do some marketing here. So, like we said, be social. Like really see if you can get friends in this field. So that would be if there are any local meetups. I know there was just a Polycount meetup in London where we live, and there are a bunch of meetups generally around. See if you can attend them. They might be a bit awkward in the beginning. You don't know anyone there, but that's kind of how you get started.
Yeah.
You just, like Morten said before, be bold. Just put yourself out there. Most people are more than willing to help out people, and they're super friendly. It's super nice to be able to just hang out with people, go to the park, and just generally have a good time.
It's generally people that are interested in the same things that you are. And I mean, me personally, I'm more of an introverted person. I don't participate too much in social media and stuff, but especially in the beginning, it's just one of those things where you just gotta suck it up.
Yeah.
You just gotta go to the meetups, you just gotta meet people, talk to them. One thing is like you make friends, but it's important for your career.
Yeah.
So
it really is. I would definitely say be active on social media for sure. Like that would be, post yourself Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, be part of groups, be part of discussions. If you can find forums which are relevant to you, see if you can find that as well. And then be extremely open to feedback. We're not saying that if you get feedback, do everything they tell you, but be open to the idea that there are a lot of things here you don't know.
Probably most things when it comes to CG you don't know if you're just starting out.
Yeah.
Even as you progress, I think it's important to stay open because there are new tools that come out, new methods of doing things you haven't considered. It's a really valuable skill to be able to take feedback very well.
Yeah. And then we have a point which is super important. Don't be a dick, guys.
Yeah.
We can't stress how important this is. It might sound like a trivial thing. Of course, I'm not going to be a dick. But this industry is tiny. Like, we're not just talking about film, we're talking about the entire creative industry here. Like, it's really a rather small field. So if you get a bad rep, that can spread, and the opposite is also true. If you get a good rep, that stuff spreads. People share people's work all the time. People share if if they do YouTube tutorials. Sometimes you see some tutorials going viral because they made that. If you make resources, people really respond well to this. So don't be a dick and be a good person. Be excellent to each other, like they say. And also share your work. Like make sure people can see your stuff. I would say that present it well, like put some effort into sharing it, but present your work well, and then share it on various social media. Get good feedback on this. This is a great way of people just getting exposure to it. What people often care about isn't necessarily, of course they care about your final product, but if they can see that this guy here has progressed from nothing to fairly decent in like a year or two, that matters a lot. That really, progress is an indicator here, because if you hire this person, you can expect the same growth, if not faster, in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So definitely share your work.
I think sharing your work is so important, because that allows you, not necessarily like you have the mentor stuff and trying to find someone to feedback you, but it exposes the world to who you are and to your work. The more people see it, the more likely you are to get some freelance or get hired, contacted by recruiters. It's it's like winning the lottery. The more tickets you put in there, like the more posts you have online, the bigger your exposure is going to be. Yeah. But I think do it with style. It's like don't share your Maya screenshot of now in progress of this model. Like, present it in a cool way that makes people go like, oh, okay, he attention to detail with this person. I can see they're really putting a lot of work into it. Yeah. Maybe you don't know like lighting and rendering, but at least you can, maybe put on a sort of semi-nice real-time shader or something.
FlippedNormals lighting scenes.
there's that, of course.
But yeah, just present your work well. That's something that I've always been really careful of. Like your reputation is essentially the sum parts of what everyone says about you, what everyone thinks about you. You can't really control it directly. You can't just be, well, let me improve my reputation. It's something which just happens over a long period of time. If somebody sees your work and it's always well presented, not saying that in the beginning, of course, the work is going to be of a beginner's quality, but you can still present the work in a proper way. I saw that a lot in school as well. Some people would just really spend a lot of time with that. They would make nice fonts. They would just do the best lighting they could to their ability. Yeah. And this stuff, it really matters. I've seen that firsthand. I presented stuff which I essentially presented the same idea twice. The first time was kind of shitty. The second time was presented in a proper way. And nothing really changed in terms of like the idea, but it was just the way it was presented. So you are your reputation. Make sure that you spend time on this. And then our last point here is, if this might be once you've been doing this for a year or two, go to festivals. Go to places like FMX in Germany. Go to SIGGRAPH. Go to local festivals where cool talks are being presented by people who made the latest cool games, the latest movies to give breakdowns. One of the main reasons you want to do this as well, first off, it's really interesting, but you meet recruiters. Yeah. Recruiters will go to all these big conventions. If you go to GDC, I'm sure there are a bunch of recruiters attending those events, which also goes back to the whole present your work.
And this is a place where you can get feedback. Like you can get feedback from people who are currently in the industry. Yeah. That's super valuable. Yeah, it might be expensive to go there and you can't afford it all the time. Yeah. But if you have the money to go there, it's a really valuable resource. Yeah, for sure. And that's also where we're saying that maybe this is something you want to save up for a bit later, because they might cost like a few $100s to go, and you have flight, maybe hotels and whatnot. Yeah. But if you go there and you really make the most of it, which means you meet some proper people. A lot of times you also meet people you met online. I've done it a bunch of times. You meet them on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, whatever, and then you happen to attend the same festival. Like that's happened to me a lot of times. Yeah. And you just have a group of people to hang out with now, and now you meet recruiters. Maybe you meet them in a more informal fashion, and all these things here can really make a huge difference. So really, to sum up this video we've been talking for around 54 minutes or so. So there's a lot of talking here in a very, very, very warm room. It is pretty warm today, actually, yeah. Stupid summer coming. So to sum it all up, its first part is get skills. Watch tutorials, get a mentor, and just do projects. Really just work on your skills. Yeah. And the second part is work on your soft skills, get into a job if you can, really get good at feedback. Share your work, take care of your reputation. The way you present your work matters. Go to festivals. Yeah. And if you follow this, hopefully you'll have success in this industry.
it is a hard one, but it's also incredibly valuable, and I'm having a lot of fun in this field.
It's very rewarding. It does require a lot of work, but it's very rewarding. Like, you get that game released, or you see your monsters on the big screen. I mean, it's just it's cool. You get to do a lot of creative work, and you're surrounded by some of the most talented people that do this thing in the entire world. So many people to learn from, so many new experience to be had. So
it's really awe-inspiring, isn't it?
It is.
You're just sitting next to some of the most talented people in the world, and you're like, "How did I get here?" It's really amazing. And also, yes, it is hard, but anything which is worth doing is hard. Otherwise, everyone would do it. Like there is no, if you're able to do this and you're self-taught, and you've only relied on yourself and some other people here, and you're completely self-taught, and you're able to get into like a proper game studio or whatever your dream might be, that is satisfying.
Yeah,
that is insane. I've seen a lot of people who do that, and they're just thriving. They're just getting purpose in life here. So we really hope that this has been useful, and that you can really take something from this video.
And now we are going to go enjoy the weather and
have some ice cream.
Yeah, maybe listen to this outside. And if you want to have more of these videos, podcasting kind of type of things, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Perfect. Thank you so much.